Connor, sorry for getting you a little bit late. We had so much people calling in to want to talk about NBA Media Days, so got you on about 5 minutes late. So how about Arkansas over Texas A&M? The question has been, what impresses you the most about this Razorback football team in 2021? Let me ask you that question, see what you think.
This Arkansas team, who I came into the year saying, I think that defensively you're going to see the turnaround. You're really going to see what it's going to look like when they have those numbers. That's been most impressive. And not to pat myself too much on the back here for predicting a 4-0 start with a Texas sweep, but
you are correct.
Say this. The way that they have dominated in the trenches is beyond what I thought they would be capable of, because the identity of this team is so clear. And you look around college football right now, right? You look at teams like an Oklahoma, like a Texas A&M or a Clemson, whoever it is, and these teams who we expected to be in the playoff race and to be competing for a national championship, these teams don't know what their identity is 4 games in. And Arkansas has such a clear identity, and that's the value of having these veterans, of having so many of these super seniors, and having a Grant Morgan, Hayes Henry, and Jalen Catalon. And Jalen Catalon's younger, so I shouldn't really lump him into that group. But still, you see that veteran leadership, and they're always one step ahead. Barry Odom's game plan was night and day better than whatever Jimbo Fisher was putting out there. I mean, that A&M offensive game plan was terrible. It was horrible, but it was up to Arkansas to be able to capitalize. And if you're not going to ask Barry Odom to make adjustments, he's going to be just fine sitting back and drop 8 coverage and doing what Arkansas does best. And they did. And to me, that was so impressive to do what they did in that environment, knowing the streak that was hanging over them. I continue to be impressed with Arkansas each and every week.
So the messaging from Sam Pittman is so important in the way that he speaks to everybody. And you've had one-on-one with him before, so I think you get a sense of that too. So much of what's going on, some of it is happening with a lot of players that have been here for 3, 4, 5 years. And, one of the things Coach Pittman did was make sure that the team bulked up, got bigger, got stronger, especially positions that they needed to. But aside from that, he's made this team about the players. His pregame message to the team was, all you got to be is you for 3 hours. There's some coaches that don't take credit, don't take glory themselves. You don't buy that humbleness from them, that humility. From Sam Pittman, these players believe in themselves because he makes it about them.
And he absolutely deserves so much credit for that. And it's knowing how to handle the spotlight as well that he's done such a good job with so far. And that's not given, it's just not. And I wrote something coming into this season that there's no guarantee that Arkansas now with expectations exceeds those expectations. And just because we saw them exceed a very low bar last year doesn't mean that that's given this year. And there's pressure on that coaching staff to make sure that these guys are buying in still, and they're not necessarily trying to do their own thing just because, hey, you won a few games, and people are saying, oh, you should have won 4 games, and Sam Pittman should have been SEC Coach of the Year. Cool, that's all well and good, but how do you take that to the next level? Well, you do exactly what they've done so far, and they just look so prepared every single week. I've loved their game plan. Maybe they're going to get into some of these games moving forward, perhaps starting this weekend against Georgia, where they have to throw the football a little bit more, and you can't necessarily rely on the game flow that they want. But so far, so good, and it's tough not to just keep heaping praise onto this coaching staff for the job that they've done.
Yeah, Sam Pittman, Kendall Briles, Barry Odom, they all deserve as much credit as any player out there on the field, because we've obviously seen the transformation that so many of them have taken under those three's leadership. On the flip side, though, as far as coaches go, you have the second highest paid coach in college football in Jimbo Fisher. And it felt like, you talk to A&M people, it felt like this was the year that they were truly going to contend. Now, honestly, sitting from an Arkansas perspective, you hope it still can be for them. You hope that they go somewhere around 11-1 because you were that one loss. But how should A&M fans, and from their perspective, how do you think they're viewing this loss? As it's just another year that A&M is going to A&M, or Arkansas is really that good?
I think they're looking at this saying, how in the world is our program paying $90 million for that? Because that offensive game plan was bad. And it's not a good enough excuse to just say, well, there's a backup quarterback in there. okay, he's struggling. Zach Calzada has struggled against decent competition. He struggled against Colorado up until those 2 late drives, and he struggled all day against Arkansas. Why is it so that Arkansas is able to be one step ahead of A&M each and every time, and it looks like they know exactly what A&M is going to do? Why is it that A&M can't run the football when there's drop eight coverage all day? Why is it that Isaiah Spiller gets a 67-yard touchdown and then doesn't get a carry for the rest of the game? That's just inexcusable. You can't have that. Jimbo Fisher failed. He failed on Saturday. It's as simple as that. And A&M fans should be frustrated because that was a winnable game, especially when KJ Jefferson goes out, and you've got an opportunity there. And if they can come back and get into that game, and of course the Monteric Brown interception changed the entire flow of that and the comeback potential for A&M, but that was sitting right there. And you had an offensive game plan that just did not work. They didn't stretch the field. They didn't find Jalen Weidemeyer in space, and they didn't run the football the way that they should have in the volume that they should have. So if I'm an A&M fan, I'm frustrated, and I'm wondering how they're going to be able to grind through an SEC schedule without Haynes King for the next few weeks. And there's no guarantee that Haynes King is going to be the answer to their problems right now. A&M has some issues despite the fact that defense is so good. But offensively, man, they are really limited. 2 touchdowns in 2 games against Power 5 competition. That's just not good enough.
Looking forward to this week, College Game Day, everything that goes with that, Fowler, Herbstreit, and just having the national spotlight. With this Georgia team, do you expect I'm not going to say expect that offense to be anywhere near what they were last week because, let's face it, it's against Vanderbilt. I mean, heck, me, Matty, you, and Phil could get, another 7 guys, and we could run out there and put some points up on Vandy. They're that bad. What kind of game do you expect it to be? Do you expect it to be closer to Georgia, Clemson, 10-3, a real knockout, a knuckle-draggle type of defensive game, or do you see JT Daniels in Georgia, putting some points on, and hopefully Arkansas, KJ Jefferson, and everybody else will be able to counteract and get some points of their own?
Well, Georgia wants balance, and it hasn't necessarily needed to put up significant points yet in one of these games because their defense is so unbelievably good. And if you're Arkansas, I don't know that you really want to run the ball as much. You need KJ Jefferson to be healthy. You need Traylon Burks to be at his absolute best. And you need him to be the first guy to really put pressure on this Georgia defense that, they're not a perfect secondary. They're really not. Josh Vann, the South Carolina receiver, had some success against this Georgia secondary. But the issue is that when they can get home with only sending a 4-man rush, I mean, that's a difficult thing. And they cause communication problems on an offensive line. They just send dudes on top of dudes on top of dudes. It's a great showcase game for this Arkansas offensive line because it's not going to get any tougher than that. It's really not. You can make the case that Georgia has the best defensive line in all of college football with Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt and Jalen Carter up front. So it is a fascinating test. Georgia better hope that it isn't one of those 7-3 type games because that's where Arkansas is comfortable. And I think that Georgia would much rather see Arkansas have to throw the football and have to get some of these 3rd and longs. But I don't think that necessarily happens.
Connor, a couple other things I want to get to. We got about 3 minutes in order to do it. I see the over-under line for Mississippi, Alabama is 77.5 right now. I mean, my goodness. And I know these are 2 offenses that are performing at an extremely high level right now. And, you never really question Alabama's defense necessarily. We question Ole Miss's defense a lot more. And I guess we'll find out about both of them on Saturday.
Yeah, they're daring you to take the over with that. And my goodness, you don't take the under in a game like this because Bryce Young and Matt Corral are playing the position at such a high level. That's why they're the Heisman Trophy favorites right now. And these offenses are going to empty the bag. There is no doubt about it. We're going to see all of it. And I'm glad that Ole Miss kind of gets a bye week, get a little bit healthier coming into this game. And, this Ole Miss defense is better. It's better than what it was last year. That's been the kind of the key storyline so far for the first 3 games that they've played. And I think that you're going to see what Alabama is truly capable of on the offensive side. And they're going to try and stretch the field. They're going to try and do things that Louisville couldn't do in that opening week matchup against Ole Miss. So it's a great, great fun game. I'm so excited for this. I hope the over hits in that one because we deserve a quarterback matchup that is reminiscent of last year what we got in the SEC championship.
Well, and we should be looking forward to the lead up to this game too, with Lane Kiffin's radio show and Nick Saban's weekly explosion on the Alabama media. I just can't wait for all of it. Last thing I want to hit on here is feels like we've got a full-on quarterback controversy on the Plains at Auburn. Bo Nix couldn't get it done against Georgia State. Former LSU quarterback T.J. Finley, now at Auburn, did get it done. And if I'm Brian Harsin, I'm starting the quarterback who was able to beat Georgia State.
To win the game, yeah.
Right? Isn't that what you would do?
Probably. And I say that as somebody who's been kind of down on Bo Nix, but T.J. Finley, this would be starting against his former school. I mean, that's a crazy thing to think about. Death Valley at night. This is somebody who didn't even experience Death Valley at night with full capacity last year because of reduced crowds. Mm-hmm. So do you worry about him having too much juice? I don't know. We saw Brian Harsin's leash was very short with Bo Nix after I thought he did all right against Penn State, and he could have did some things better, but didn't necessarily cost them that game. So, yeah, I would probably go with Finley, but at the same time, if there's some resistance on Harsin's side, I kind of get it, knowing what's at stake for Finley and knowing what that game is going to be to him.
All right. Connor, we'll leave it there. We'll do
Appreciate
it again Monday
Connor.
next week. Thanks for your time, as always.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
You got it. That's Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. Give him a follow at CJ O'Gara. And it is SaturdayDownSouth.com. The texts are coming in. Our question for today, and we don't do this every day, but this is a day to ask a question like this. What impresses you the most about Arkansas football 4 games in? And if you want to go to what impressed you most against A&M, have at it, because we can do that too. And if you don't come with any ideas or comments about that, watch out, because Drew is ready to break down the entire Minnesota Timberwolves roster.
NBA Media Days today, baby. I'm ready.
He's ready like nobody else is.
The only way to keep me from doing is keep calling and texting.
You know why? Because nobody else is ready for it. So be a good sport, be a good listener, and do our work for us on Halftime.
We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. And as always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all the college and pro football action this season. With a new updated site and interface and even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the #1 source for everything college football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.